Pacers and Milwaukee. Game one, Dame reminds us, like, hey, I'm still Dame Lillard. Drops 35 points in the first half, playing absolutely ridiculous. And then Indiana, we're like, oh, is Indiana too young? They look a little bit shell shocked here. And then the second half, Dame doesn't score any points. Indiana Pacers build some momentum there. And then the next game, Rick Carlisle, credit to him, famous Mavericks head coach, figures it out. And then we see players like Obi Toppin step up. Yeah, that's right, Obi Toppin. We see Pascal Siakam step up. We're seeing Tyrese Halliburton start to find his way. And then you have some of the great young players off your bench. Or like TJ McConnell, what? And then you have Miles Turner hit a career high in 3-pointers in the death nail without Damian Lillard in game four there to give the Indiana Pacers a 3-1 lead, looking like they're going on, which was our prediction was Pacers Knicks for the second round there. But Milwaukee is what we thought they would be, which is Giannis, injury riddled star. We're like, let's not ignore that Giannis just had a calf injury, which could potentially lead to an Achilles, where they're probably going to have to be careful with him. And then Dame didn't want to be there, said he's bored. He's like, this is the worst place to go through a breakup in. Actual quote from him, I miss my family. So he's probably not there anymore. He gets injured. And then Chris Middleton gets hobbled in the last game, and he's playing on one leg right now. And my problem with the Bucks was I thought Chris Middleton was past his prime where he could really be a star contributor to a top team, because once you start having hamstring injuries in your late 30s, probably not going to get better. And then Dame is not going to want to stay there in Milwaukee. And oh, yeah, Doc Rivers is your head coach. And then my biggest problem with the Milwaukee Bucks is when people say the name Brooke Lopez and Bobby Portis, because I've seen them so many times. How many times have we watched the Bucks and Celtics play where it's an elimination game? Brooke Lopez disappears, Bobby Portis just disappears, and they don't get anything from them. It's like the Bucks series last year versus the Miami Heat. Where was Bobby Portis? Because you were playing an inferior Heat roster and they destroyed you. Where was Brooke Lopez in that series? And people keep saying those names like it's a good thing. Like, of course, when no pressure is on them now, they're going to hit shots, but Bobby Portis and Brooke Lopez disappear in big moments when Giannis isn't there, when Dame isn't going off. It's like you need Giannis, Dame, and Middleton to have a shot at going to the finals, and it's not even a lock to get there, but you can't rely on Bobby Portis because I've seen him and Brooke Lopez disappear time after time after time in the playoffs.
Yeah, I think that these are one of these players that you hear the name often. You hear Brooke Lopez. You remember Brooke Lopez because you're a fan of basketball and you've watched basketball for a long time, and you remember him on the Nets, and you have good memories with Brooke Lopez. He was good to you back in the day. But now, Brooke Lopez is what? 74? Is that how old Brooke Lopez is? And Bobby Portis? Bobby Portis has been playing since I've been shitting in diapers, for Christ's sakes. So these guys, like, yes, we know their names. We remember them fondly. They had great memories with our early adolescence. But at this point, they're old. And Chris Middleton, another guy who's old. And Giannis. Giannis is great. Damian Lillard is great. But at this point, with Dame being unhappy and never wanting to be in Milwaukee, with Brooke Lopez being 94 and Bobby Portis being 87, it's like at this point, this team is old. This was the concerns going into the season with the Bucks. They're old. They probably should have traded Chris Middleton rather than Drew Holiday. We've seen how much Drew Holiday has helped them. So you see an aging team. And then on top of all of this, you have Doc Rivers, who everywhere he goes, he implodes that team, whether it was the Magic in the early 2000s or the Big Three in Boston or the Clippers. And now we're seeing it with the Bucks. So this team, we called it. We said the Pacers are going to win this series. It felt obvious to us, but for other people, maybe not so much. So this is just a culmination of a lot of mistakes made by the Bucks the last 2 or 3 years, and it's going to result in them losing in 5.
Yeah, it's going to result in them losing in 5. And once they're officially eliminated, we don't have time to go through right now what they can do next season because of the draft, but we'll definitely do a deep dive on these teams getting eliminated with what they need to do to be competitive next year.